I've arrived at my fishery for the day and found that with the recent rains, hundreds if not thousands of chum salmon have pushed into the river system. In most aspects, that's awesome news. However, the season for chum is not open and you can't fish for them. But there are numerous trout and whitefish around the salmon gorging on eggs that I want to catch. So how do you properly fish around salmon when you don't want to harm them or their spawning process, but you want to catch the other good fish nearby? Let's go about doing that today. There we go. Oh, not a big trout, but a nice trout anyways. Oh, pardon me, whitefish. So, let's see here. Ah, nice whitey. So I've come out today and I have found that with the recent rains we've had, 1,000 chum have moved into this water system. Now, I have no intention of fishing for the chum. Right now, you cannot fish for chum. There's a closure on them. But they are going into this slough right now, going into the small feeder creeks, looking for a place to spawn, returning to their home waters, as it were. Now, where the salmon are, where the chum are, depending on the system, different species come in at different times of year. But right now, it's the chum that are moving in large schools in certain waterways. And following those chum are the trout and the whitefish and the other species. There'll be bull trout, there'll be chub, there'll be other various species swimming around. They're following those salmon up, looking for very easy meals in terms of the eggs and stuff like that. And they may stay with those salmon for a long time. But one of the problems around it is you cannot fish for the salmon in certain situations. In other situations, you can. There is a limit for them. In other situations, you could probably, I don't know if you can see all that, some of the chum behind me. Oh, well, there's, speaking of the devil, there's one right there. I didn't cast for that. Certain spots you can fish for the chum. Coho, Chinook, sockeye, whatever. There'll be an open season for them. There'll also be situations where you can fish for them for retention and non-retention. In other words, catch and release. And then there'll be other times, such as right now, where I am anyways, where you're not allowed to target them. You cannot even go out there with the intention of fishing for them, catch and release. So, considering those laws, I try and of course fish around that. And it can be difficult sometimes because of all the chum being around that you're gonna foul hook them. Well, that is what, here's another nice whitefish. That's what I'm trying to avoid. There are a lot of other good fish around those salmon because they're around for the free meals. But you have to be careful to do a couple of things. You don't want to hook the salmon for two reasons. One is, of course, because you're not allowed to fish for them. The other is because, depending on your gear you're using, especially if it's chum, they'll destroy your gear sometimes. So you'll spend more time trying to repair leaders and tie on new flies than anything else. The other thing you want to be careful of is you do not, if they're in a spawning area, you do not want to be stepping on their redds where their eggs are being laid. Now, usually it's very easy to avoid that. They like specific types of gravel. They like specific types of water. Where I am right now is dead, slack water, almost. There's faster water behind me. The chum are all up there. I'm walking through the mud and the silt on the side. The salmon are spawning where there's multiple creeks coming in here. They're spawning in the fresh, clearer water, maybe not so clear, but it's where the gravel has been more exposed, and they can fan it a little bit more, and they can make their reds and deposit their eggs there. You do not want to step in those depressions where those salmon are doing their nature thing. You want to walk around that stuff. You want to stay in the silty water, the slack water, walk on the woody debris, walk where you see the mud and the sand, the spots where you do not see the salmon attempting to spawn. So that's what I've done to work my way out here. I've made sure I've gotten down below where 99% of the salmon are. There's going to be salmon moving up through the slough at all times, so you can't avoid them completely, but what you can do is move to where they are in far less numbers. They'll be far less aggressive, far less likely to hook, take your fly, and that's also where you're going to find the trout and the whitefish often. They're not going to be sitting right with the chum, because sometimes the chum won't let them. They're going to be sitting downstream of them. Now, enough talking, let's get back to fishing. But what I'm trying to do, by coming more into the slacker water, what I'm doing is I'm nymphing an egg pattern, because I know that's exactly what the trout and the whitefish are looking for right now. Now, even though there's more trout and whitefish in this area where I am now compared to the chum, because I'm trying to avoid the chum, there's still chum here too. So you have to be careful. And this is one reason why I am not using a streamer right now and trying to swing flies, is because I do not want to, this is a slightly better fish, not a biggie, but still nice. I do not want to snag any chum. That's another possibility, right? So what I am looking to do is to put my fly, oh, nice cutthroat. Beauty. Ah, yeah. Nice and silver. Ah, love that. Probably about 35 centimeters, 14 inches. There you go. So what I am trying to do is I'm trying to fish at the bottom of where the salmon are, which is I know where the trout and whitefish will be hanging out. Instead of swinging my flies through any fast water, which may end up either flossing salmon through their mouths or snagging them in their back, I'm fishing close to myself, not moving, and making my fly I'm nymphing is what I'm doing, and making my fly go down as much as I can at a 90-degree angle from my rod tip. It won't be perfect, but so I'm trying to make sure my line is as vertical as possible going into the water and not horizontal. When your line's horizontal, you're going to snag a lot of salmon because they're just going to swim right into your line, pull that leader through their mouth, over the dorsal fin or something like that, over the tail, and it's going to snag the fly on their back and the side of their mouth, wherever the case may be. I'm trying to avoid that. So by doing a more vertical presentation and staying in very tight contact with your fly, what you can do is you can put it straight down and the salmon will swim by and not hit that leader. They may target the fly every now and then, but for the most part, they're going to swim around that leader just naturally. It's not going to get hooked on them, not going to get caught on them. What you're also going to do is you're going to try and keep I'm also using a very small fly, but a size 16. That really decreases the chance of hooking into chum. The bigger the fly you go, the bigger the gap in the hook, the greater the chance you're going to snag something. I'm also using inverted flies that use an inverted bead or a head turner bead. They go by various different names, which flips the fly upside down so the hook's pointing up. Okay? That is also going to reduce the chances of snagging a salmon accidentally. I'm also keeping a very tight connection with my fly. I'm not fishing very far away from me. In these conditions, the fish they're spooked a bit, but not too much. The water's a little bit cloudy. Like I can't see my feet where I am right now. So it's probably only about 2 feet of viz. And if I'm motionless for the most part, the fish have no idea I'm here. But I'm staying in tight contact. Sorry, I'm staying in tight contact so I can tell the difference between when my fly might accidentally bump a salmon or it's being picked up by a trout or a whitefish. Both are very, very, very distinct. Ah, nice little fish again. It's whitefish. Beauty. So I'm casting to both sides of where I am right now, even behind me. So I'm doing a 360. Trying to get my fly to go into a vertical presentation to minimize any chance of snagging any salmon. And I am not setting my hook on, ooh, nice bit. Little fishy, not a biggie. Whoosh. Back out there. There you go, little whitefish. So when I am drifting my fly, and when I'm drifting it is drifting very slowly because there's almost no current, but there is a slight current. I want to stay in complete contact with my fly as much as possible so I can feel if it's a tap, tap, tap from a trout or a whitefish, or if it's more of a harder thump from a salmon. If it's a harder thump from a salmon, I'll avoid it. I'll just let the fly slide by it because it's more than likely just a salmon swimming past the fly. But if it's a trout or a whitefish, which is more of a series of taps, it's more of a sharper hit. Salmon don't generally hit that hard, even though they got a lot of weight to them. They're more gentle or more subtle in their takes. The trout and whitefish will be the same too at times, but a lot of times you can actually feel their hits being far more aggressive, way more of a grabbing action. If I was trying to describe it a bit better. But. So what I do is I kind of, sometimes you set the hook a little bit hard and you give them a little bit of a pull. So a lot of times I'm not setting the hook on these fish. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Oosh. Now that is a bull trout, and he is chasing that small little whitefish. Sorry about that, buddy. That was about a 10-pound bull trout chasing this little whitefish here on the end of the line. Hopefully I can find that bull trout. Anyways, that's nice to see. So I'm not setting the hook hard on everything I see or feel. If I know it's a trout, then I set the hook. If I'm suspicious it might be a salmon, I don't set the hook. I want it to kind of come off loosely before anything starts to happen. So that means you're going to lose more fish this way. But usually there's so many fish around, that's okay. You can lose a few. I'd rather lose a few good fish as opposed to hooking a few bad fish, right? That's sort of the trade-off. I won't stay in one position the whole time. I will move along just ever so quietly, because you also don't want to spook the salmon. Not only do you not want to step on their reds, but if you spook 20 salmon that are sitting together, that's going to spook everything else in the area too. So you want to be as subtle as you can out here. Most of my actions are just going to be slow movements. Usually any fast movements will lead to a snagged salmon. Come Come on, fishies. Tap, tap, tap. And there you go. So far, I'm not catching any giants out here today, but that's quite okay. Beautiful fish anyways. Everything between maybe 10 and 14 inches. Keeping my cast short, trying to maintain that vertical presentation as much as I can, keeping a tight line so I can hopefully feel a fish before my fly bumps into it and minimize the chance of snagging any salmon. Do you have a fish hitting, or you suspect it's hitting, or you expect there's a fish there? Raise your rod tip slightly, just enough to know if it's something that wants to commit to your fly. Another nice whitefish. If you lift it slowly, if it's a salmon, you'll probably just pull the fly over the back of the fish. You won't hook up on it, no snagging. If it's a trout or a whitefish, it'll probably commit to it then. Then you can set the hook harder. Every now and then you might make a mistake and you'll accidentally hook a salmon. That does happen. But so far I haven't hooked any salmon, and they're all around here right now. And if anyone's ever fished for chum, you know how aggressive chum can be. Sometimes it's very, very, very difficult to avoid hooking chum. But right now I've caught probably 20 whitefish and trout as opposed to no chum, which is the way you want it. Unless, of course, you're fishing for chum. Don't get me wrong, fishing for chum when you're allowed to, and you have the right gear, fantastic. Boy, do they fight hard. But you don't want to target them anywhere near their reds or spawning areas or something like that. I'm way too close to that. I should also mention I'm using a very light leader. That's typically what you use for nymphing anyways, but if I was nymphing for salmon, which I do, it's very effective. Distracted talking and fishing here. Another whitefish. If you're fishing for salmon, you would use, I'd use something like 3X. So I could still get down to it with a heavier fly, but I have the strength of the leader to help me land those fish properly. Right now though, I'm using 6.5X leader, because if I do accidentally hook a salmon, I don't want to fight it. I'd rather, pull the hook out, or, hopefully the hook will just break right off quickly and the fish can go back to doing its business. Not that you want to leave a lot of salmon out there with flies in their backs as ornaments, but when they're close to their spawning areas, I'd much rather do that than wear them out. I'd rather them save their strength for their spawning process. And I'm also using, like I think I was saying before, using a tungsten bead fly that inverts it. But it depends on how deep you have to fish and the flow of the water. In this case, I'm using a 3 millimeter. And I'm using only a size 16 hook, so. As I'm being very hesitant to set the hook very hard, I'm also missing a lot of fish. Like I can feel them tapping, I can see them hitting, but I'm being extra cautious so I can avoid setting a hook into a chum. I'd rather err on the side of caution. And I think my fly rod agrees with me. My fly rod wants nothing to do with a chum salmon right now. Neither does my leader, neither does my fly, and neither does my reel. Like, don't you dare hook a chum at this moment. Yeah, no, don't worry, I'm trying not to. Don't worry, fly rod. Now, I know I definitely haven't caught all the fish in this area yet. I am still getting a lot of hits every now and then. I'm just being patient, biding my time, and slowly picking them off. But it may be also time to leave in a minute and try something different. Wahoo! So far, I haven't even bothered to take my net off my back. I could be doing that, but these fish have been so easy to kind of release. It's nice not to have to net the fish sometimes. Sometimes whitefish too are, if you are just releasing everything, whitefish are a flip-flop fish. As soon as you get them in your net, they're just flip, flop, flip, flop. Just doing cartwheels in your net. Not like a trout, aggressively and fast, just slow one here, one here, one here. It makes it really tough sometimes to try and get that hook out of their mouth because they will not stop squirming. So sometimes it's easier just to bring them up quickly, grab the hook, and swing it around. Though if it's a bigger fish, I missed that one. Though if it was a bigger fish, I would net it so I can maybe take a picture of the fish in the net too. So there's nothing wrong with netting fish. Just make sure you use a net with a good rubberized coating. Keep the net wet. Try to avoid touching the fish if you can. If you do touch it, wet hands. See if I can get that one to come back. Oh, I probably spooked them too much. But where he is, it's got to be 20 more, I'm sure. And vertical presentation as much as possible. The water's moving so slowly here that my fly's actually, when I cast it out there, it's just kind of drifting back to me slowly. Staying in tight contact with it. Right down near the bottom. Feel a... Oh. Missed that guy too. You just usually see your fly line leader move a little bit, or you can just feel a series of taps. Woof. There is that bull trout again was just chasing this fish. Come here, buddy. That is one aggressive bull. It does feel very good to be able to come out here Know that there's 1,000 salmon around, see them doing their thing, and knowing that you're not hooking into any of them. You're not disturbing their reds. You're having a minimal impact on the fishery as much as you can. Yet you're also successfully catching a good number of fish, which is our objective. You're on the water, have a good time, and hook some fish.